Fordham University was part of the original Lincoln Center complex in 1961. Fordham University School of Law is across the street from Lincoln Center. Fordham Law School has been part of the educational component of Lincoln Center since the beginning and moved into its new building in 2014. Professor Hugh Hansen is the director of the Fordham Intellectual Property Institute. When he came to Fordham, the law school had only one 2-credit course covering all of IP law. With the permission of the deans, over the years he created the original IP curriculum, and with highly knowledgeable adjunct professors taught a wide variety of IP courses. His strong interest in IP continued, and he created the Fordham Annual Conference on IP Law and Policy, now in its 26th year. In 2017, the conference had over 500 registrants from 33 countries and over 170 faculty participants. This includes judges from 22 countries, as well as the heads of governmental IP agencies and leading practitioners from around the world. It also includes prominent general counsel of leading organizations for whom IP is very important. The Institute has grown and flourished due to the input and financial support of many people and organizations. The conference motto is Learn, Debate, Have Fun. It's not just a motto, it's what people do every year. Professor Hansen established the Fordham IP Institute to further the mission of examining US and international IP law and policy. The Institute is supported financially by the Emily C. and John E. Hansen Intellectual Property Institute, named in honor of Professor Hansen's parents.
Just doing my master's, finished that, went into practice, and quite by chance bumped into Hugh in Singapore. And he invited me to come. I thought, wow, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. I'd heard about the Fordham Conference. It's a pantheon of the gods of the IP world, people who had graced the covers of textbooks, whose written judgments that I'd studied in school, and who worked at firms that every law graduate would dream of working at. And so it was an easy yes. And I had the chance my first year here to speak at the conference, which I think is a real characteristic of both Hugh and the conference, that it's the ideas that are brought to the table more than the seniority of the person that matters. And that has been true in the 10 years now that I've been coming.
I think it's the people who come here. Each attracts the other, and once you're here, you know that you'll meet and have the opportunity to interact with and to learn from the people who are the leaders worldwide in thinking and scholarship and practice in a field of law that turns out to be the most important current field of law. A lot is in flux just for that reason. So coming together with colleagues from all nations is something that is very attractive.
It's a little different currently attending as opposed to when you're a student, especially your first conference. I think it's a little overwhelming. You don't realize when you're a student how much of an impact this conference has internationally and domestic.
It was a terrifying experience for me. Because of the reputation of Fordham, the reputation for, well, skepticism and incisive debate, which I felt I wasn't ready for. In my presentation, I was maybe 1/3 of the way through my 8 very nuanced diplomatic points when my time ran out, and then somebody stood up and pointed at me and said, "I don't care. You go back and tell your Director General that we've got to do this, this and this. And it was a fantastic reality check for me. It was a catalytic experience for me, because it really brought me down to earth. And it reminded me that in Geneva, the IP community in Geneva can become remarkably abstracted and lost to the real world. So for me it was a bracing experience, but an enormously healthy one.
I think Hugh Hansen himself makes the conference what it is, because he brings super talented, super successful people into a room and tears away all of any affectation, any hubris, any ego, because he insults them all.
These are the deep experts who care about the intellectual property system in a multidisciplinary way. It's not just about patents or trademarks or copyrights, it's everything. Patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, competition, and international in nature. It's the only conference like it in the world, and it's highly, highly substantive from end to end, and that's why I spend my time at it.
There are a number of things that separate this conference from others. So first of all, it brings together an incredible community of people from all over the world, many of whom come year after year and therefore know each other well. And so it's really a gathering point for leaders in the field of IP from all over the world to come to Fordham Law School each year to discuss and focus on some of the most important issues that they face. So as a meeting place and as a crossroads of the world, it's really unparalleled. And then second, there's a style and atmosphere at the conference that I think is really a reflection of Hugh's personality and Hugh's approach to the conference that really makes it special. Hugh prizes spontaneity, and he loves the idea of a conference where things happen live and in real time. And so there's a way in which the debates and exchanges on the panels really feed on each other and create an energy in the room that's incredibly unusual.
This is the place where you get the deepest combination of policy, practical experience, judge, practitioner, academic, experience from all over the world. So it's a kaleidoscope bringing together these many pieces, bringing them together and having debates about the issues. Policy, perspective, where to go from here, what has happened in the past. It is a conference that is very deep and very broad and very dynamic.
I tell them it's really my favorite conference of the year. I tell them that they should try and come here. I tell them it's an amazing opportunity to meet with people, very high levels in government and industry, and very thoughtful people. People that I think the emphasis here is people that have really hands-on information about how the system works, by and large. So, you know, I just can't emphasize how useful it is to me to meet government officials and people in industry here that I would not normally have the opportunity to hang out with so much.
Primarily, I think this is probably the only conference in which we come to learn rather than to market our firm and our services. The primary reason we're here is to attend the lectures, to enjoy the discussions.
I think it was in 1995 or 1996 that I participated in the first time, still as the representative of WIPO, Assistant Director General. And since then, I have been here in all the conferences, so it must be some 20th or 21st opportunity. And at the very beginning, I found that this is a unique opportunity to get fresh and authentic information about all aspects of intellectual property. And during the 20 or 21 times, this opinion has been ever more fixed in my mind. So this is a very, very special opportunity. It's a must for everybody in the field of IP who is sufficiently lucky to be able to participate.
I've probably attended about half of all the conferences over the last 25 years. And the reason I attend is they are the best place to be to learn about intellectual property law.
My favorite plenary sessions are the general counsel roundtables, because you get to hear from a lot of different general counsels, and those are always really interesting conversations to hear how general counsels are dealing at these big in-house corporations, how they're dealing in the IP realm and what they're doing to either protect what they're doing or take down infringers.
There have been so many kind of exciting debates. For example, a few years ago, the Supreme Court of England, of the United Kingdom, had reversed a case, and the lower court judge and the Supreme Court law lord, Lord Neuberger, were here, and they actually had a debate, and it was kind of a fiery debate over whether it was appropriate for the Supreme Court to reverse him. And that would only happen at Fordham, where you would have two distinguished judges really fighting.
Well, again, I think it's the egalitarian way in which people learn, debate, and have fun. But I'll tell you a fact that not many people probably know about the conference, and it's a little bit of armchair psychology on my part, but Hugh and I once talked about his childhood, and as he was growing up, he used to have debates with his mother across the kitchen table, and his mother made it clear to him that it wasn't about her being his mother, and him being the son that should determine the outcome of the debate. It's the ideas, it's not hierarchy. And I think you see a lot of that in the way that he interacts with the senior judges, practitioners, everyone really at the conference, and you see a very genuine projection of the man that is Hugh Hansen, personified in the conference. And I think that's something that makes this conference special, and in many ways difficult to replicate outside of the setting in which he is created.
Can have a debate with Robin Jacob, who is quite an open person, but those kinds of person who you usually wouldn't have that kind of direct exchange with. Here in Fordham, he's not the appellate English judge, and I'm not the private practice lawyer. We're just trading ideas, and whoever's ideas are interesting can voice them and is well received for voicing them.
On the debating side, well, we've had some really interesting debates on GIs, and one quote that comes to mind, I think, was last year in Cambridge, where Professor Hughes said that after the French lost Catholicism, they needed something to replace it, and they found GIs, which was a very humorous quote to find.
I was involved on behalf of clients in the discussion about database protection in the European Union. And it was one of my first forays into European Union policy making. I arrive at Fordham for the first time, and I see there's this panel with everybody on both sides of the issue, from Europe and from the United States, all in one place. And in the center, Jean-François Verstringer, who was the European Commission chief staffer on this, a big volcanic guy with very strong opinions, rarely wrong, never in doubt kind of guy. And it was just quite an exciting place to be, and to really have everybody in one room that was debating this important issue for my clients.
That's a first thing that really sets this conference aside. When you have to do a presentation in Fordham, believe me, I'm a litigator, so I'm in court regularly, Now, when I'm about to do a presentation here, I feel more like when I'm about to argue a case in court than like when I'm doing, you know, some presentation somewhere on a slide deck I've already used a number of times. So that is one thing really setting this conference apart from others, I think. People just really give it a lot more thought to what they want to say. And then, frankly, the quality of the attendance is just brilliant. I mean, you've got the best judges, best professors, some very good people from private practice. It's an incredible mixture of really good people who have a lot of interesting things to say about their topics.
It is a mental exercise. I'm always forced here to really follow the newest developments, to give up maybe one of the most healthy things, to throw away some ideas I might have had, replace them by other ideas. I like the dialogue.
He's one of a kind. I mean, there aren't any other Hugh Hansens around.
My first IP Institute conference was, I think, the 10th, and I was a very junior professor, and someone was kind enough to introduce me to Hugh and tell Hugh that I was working on something that was the subject of a panel later in the day. And Hugh didn't do the usual and say, "Oh, that's nice," or "Congratulations," or "Tell me about your research." He said, "Well, get your derrière on my panel." And of course, being Hugh, he didn't say derrière, but a couple of hours later, there was my bottom on Hugh's panel, and I have come to the conference ever since. It was a wonderful experience.
But I remember one conference that I was on 3 panels, and a colleague of mine had a medical problem and had to leave the conference. And you came up to me and said, "Listen, we really need you to take over." So I was on 6 panels, and you was kind of, even he was a little bit, sorry for me. But I said, it was the most fun I ever had.
Many of the substantive panels have been really a lot of fun and informative from my perspective. You could, in many cases, switch the panel and the audience, and it would be just as good. The audience is first rate, it's fantastic, and that's one of the real appeals of this conference.
I thought it was, well, learn, then debate, then have fun. Well, no, it's actually all together at once, and I think that works. I mean, we have to be reminded to do it, and we have sometimes have to be really provoked to do it, but always in retrospect, when I speak with people, they always say, actually, it was a lot of fun, particularly when we were at our most extreme disagreement. That was the most fun of all.
I remember I came for a number of years to this conference, and I remember that it is always a unique and extremely joyful experience.
If you talk to the old-timers who have been to Fordham a lot, also as speakers, they said, well, sometimes you arrive and you don't know whether you have any role. And then he will say, why don't you join panel so-and-so or be a commentator there, and without any preparation, you're just part, of the panel, which is fun. I think he probably knows what he's doing, because he's not saying this to people who subsequently will not have anything to say. But it's interesting, that you're called upon on the spot without any preparation. That's fun.
It's a way to give, I think, an unequaled orientation to developments in the field of intellectual property law, but as well to see how the field has important connections to other fields of policymaking. In short, whether you've been doing this for decades or you're just starting out, it's a wonderful environment to be exposed to current developments and the larger framework in which policy takes place.
No one just comes to get their CLE credit. No one just shows up because, well, you have to go to conferences, because you have to network. There's no have to at Fordham. Everyone who comes here really wants to learn about the newest issues, and they really want to think about the newest issues, and they want to exchange their ideas with everyone else.
It's got to be one of the most well-attended, biggest IP events involving industry, academia, and law firm practitioners. If there is another in the United States, I'd like to know about it. And you can understand why people keep coming. The host is a well-known, something of a celebrity. and people know that they're going to meet people from around the world, regulators, policymakers, and decision makers generally.
And come here to realize, above all, that behind all of these eminent judges, these fearsome academics, these high-level officials, find the humanity behind each of those individuals. You then start to understand how the system really works.
But I'd say it's an intense 2-day reflection on where the world of IP is and where it might be going.
I think, though, the two most attractive things are the conference gives attendees an opportunity to think about the big picture, which I never get in my practice.
I would sum up the conference by saying that the Fordham IP Conference is really the place to come anywhere in the world to get both a broad overview and a deep dive into the key intellectual property issues of the day. Perspectives from all over the world are represented there. It's informal in the sense that people will say what they think.
It's egalitarian, so everyone's on the same level when you're at the Fordham IP Conference.
If one would like to go to conference to really understand what's going to happen or is happening, this is the conference to go to. Also, it's sometimes also what is not said, what the questions being avoided by policymakers, or how they quite subtle kind of indicate what the path will be for the future. I think that's something that is very valuable, at least for me as a kind of old policymaker role and also hands-on on the copyright issues, is that you cannot read a paper, a journal to learn this. You have to actually be here.
Year in and year out, it is the single best international IP conference in the world, hands down.
And I can remember as a government official standing at the podium with Hugh asking me questions about the administration that I was serving, and thinking to myself, you know, I may be getting or Hugh may be getting more from this bargain than I am.
Well, it was an incredible happening that I didn't know was going to be an incredible happening, because he came to me one day when I was serving as dean of law school and said, in effect, I have an idea. And I said, what's the idea? He said, I would like to establish a intellectual property conference. However, he said, it's going to lose money for a few years. But I think after a few years, we'll break even and financially would be successful. And I recall looking at him with a look that said, we have enough losers. It's hard, but I'll go with it in terms of providing the initial seed support. Despite the accurate prediction, we were going to lose money in the first and second years. I don't know at what point we turned the corner. It could have been the third or fourth year. And so we were really investing in the future of the school and in the future of an idea that you had.
My most favorite memory is in 2005 when the Grokster case was up before the Supreme Court, and I believe in plenary session, Hugh made a prediction that the decision would be 9-0, and I remember the uproar in the crowd. I heard later that he made some dinner bets with many people, and when the decision came out, I think he enjoyed many, many dinners for the following year because he was absolutely correct in his prediction.
Well, I've been on some panels where there's a lot of tension, and where, but I think that a good thing about being in Fordham, people seem to be reasonably good-humored about things that could otherwise kind of spin out of control. Mm-hmm. So even though there'd be like really big and sometimes very passionate and almost you know, like anger between people on some issues, they're involved in some negotiation, you'll be here at Fordham, you're talking about it, and you know, I think the conference is a way, partly because of Hugh's style, to humanize things and kind of take down the personal animosity a notch. I think that's nice.
Everybody who has got a point, a valuable point, is able to express this. It's exceptional.
I think my fondest memories of the conferences over the years have been the really deep debates that have taken place with just great people from all over the world. It's just been a really stimulating and exciting place to be.
The Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization in Geneva called the Fordham IP Conference the Davos of the IP world. In that same vein, one of the conference's major purposes is to develop an understanding of how IP works and operates in the real world, both in the US and abroad.
So first, let me say I'm not an expert on IP law, but you don't need to be an expert to see how central IP law has become to our economy and legal system and the economies and legal systems around the world. First, a much greater percentage of wealth is tied up in intellectual property than ever before. We live in an information age, and in an information age, information is of value, and what protects that value is IP law. So IP has really moved from being a fascinating niche field in the law to being at the center of what's really going on in the global economy and cultural shifts around the world. And therefore, many societies around the world are facing the same set of issues, and how they answer those questions is going to be critically important to what the world looks like in the future.
The subject has become extraordinarily complicated. The stakes have become ever so high, and the political content of IP in the legislatures in government has enlarged in enormous amount.
IP law has gotten more complex. The subject matter has just become more involved at a granular level. You have got more players with diverse interests. You have got more voices that span not just the European way of thinking of the IP world, but also increasingly the Asian way, and other players whose voices have not been heard up to this point, people from South America, from Africa, even the Middle East, weighing into how they see IP should be. And I think it's going to be a more difficult sort of compromise, but I think eventually it's going to be a consensus, which is more sustainable for everyone.
I think IP is it's a form of government regulation. It's used both as a reward and an incentive for people to do certain kinds of creative activity. The term bundles together all sorts of different things. Sometimes it becomes confusing to use that term. If you look at copyrights and patents or trademarks, they're so different in terms of how they work. It sometimes is a mistake to kind of generalize across the board. I think one overriding thing, though, is that it's an incentive or reward system that makes a lot of sense in some cases, but doesn't make any sense in other cases. I think intellectual property now is perceived as a powerful tool, and because of that, it's being thrown around in a lot of areas where it makes absolutely no sense at all. I think what you see here in this room is people that think intellectual property really belongs everywhere.
He's a very, very loyal person to have in your life.
He's extremely smart, extremely impatient, and extremely demanding.
A very funny guy. The conference is, to a certain extent, a reflection of his personality as much as it is of the issues.
Passionate. That he's incredibly passionate about the issues that he works on, that his energy is contagious, and that he really brings a room to life.
Force of nature.
He's a Renaissance kind of person, and he's a very down-to-earth, humble. And when you care for others, that's really the test for me of what kind of person you are.
Hugh is the man.
The exceptional one. He's a unique phenomenon, and it's very good for us.
Really a wonderful person, a very nice, kind person, a very foresightful person.
He's amazing.
Extremely confident, witty, clever, but most of all, he has a unique sense of humor.
He is the greatest catalyst to bring scholars, lawyers, practitioners together.
Idiosyncratic.
He's always the guy in charge in whatever situation he's in.
He is a great scholar. He is a skilled practitioner.
He's an extremely loyal and extremely honest and direct.
Godlike.
Genuine.
Funny, really sincere. He was a true believer. Fundamentally an honest guy.
A very good person, a very intelligent person, a great sense of humor, and an incredible knower of things.
Unpredictable.
Center of gravity convener. Magnetic.
Is unique.
Saint-like. The Mother Teresa of intellectual property.
Intelligent, irreverent, whimsical, but thoughtful.
He's a great teacher, very enthusiastic, very funny also, and also very international.
He's a brilliant scholar and an incredibly impatient moderator.
Intellectually provocative.
Dedicated.
Irrepressible.
Provocative.
Exuberant.
Very enthusiastic. His ability to stimulate people is impressive.
Magician. Complicated, surprising.
Unique. Greater than life experience. With a big heart.
Genuine.
Mensch. Someone to admire and emulate.
He's eccentric.
A character.
Kinetic.
Candid.
Learn, debate, have fun. That's what I think of when I think of Hugh Hansen.
Manhattan. Quintessential Manhattan.
Very driven, charming. He's very bright, with a good sense of humor, but also a bit chaotic.
But he's the soul of the conference.
He's intelligent, he's sharp, he's funny, very intriguing, very nice, very provocative.
Energetic.
Inimitable. An original. There's no one else like Hugh Hansen.
Hansen-esque. He needs his own word. There's no other word for it than Hansen-esque. He epitomizes Hansen-ness.
Well, I think it's a great achievement to have gathered together so many people who, present company accepted, you might say, are stars in their own field, both lawyers and judges, and to enable this very frank, uninhibited discussion. I think I haven't really seen anything like it before.
I really hope that this is, just the first 25 years of many further anniversaries to come, because this is a really important conference.
So what Hugh's done in a crucial way with the conference is to build an indispensable institution that supports the development of better policymaking over time, and the vital dimension of human interaction provides a place where people can meet in a non-confrontational setting to build a spirit of constructive discussion, cooperation, and understanding. And as in doing that, can cause people to change their minds, or at least rethink the assumptions that they hold dear.
I think it's important to remember where we came, the values that make this conference special. I touched on how egalitarian, how communitaire this group of people are, and people have flocked to contribute to this video. I think not so much because they want to be heard, but they really want to be part of what they believe in, what they see to be a significant platform for stakeholders in IP all around the world to learn, debate, and have fun as friends, as fellow partners in this enterprise that is IP, regardless of the point of view that they take.
What I'd like to suggest is that it's rare that something like this that bears the stamp of a person and his original intention manages to keep that character through this many years. And so I think that's a challenge, to make sure that it stays the way that it is, so it continues to have this very special value. There isn't any other conference like this.
Well, I think it's a great moment. I think it's a testament to the hard work that's gone into the conference, the devotion that Hugh has displayed, and the respect he's garnered around the world. I think it's a great moment to give honor to that.
I would just say congratulations.
Congratulations on 25 years. I hope that someone is in the wings to take over someday, because I just don't know if it could be the same without Hugh Hansen.
Well, I'd certainly like to congratulate Hugh Hansen on developing such a renowned program. It's really put Fordham on the map in intellectual property. It's been fantastic for our students in helping us develop a very robust intellectual property curriculum. And it's had quite an influence around the world in the development of intellectual property law, both in the United States and in foreign countries. And it's a real testament to the vision and quality of the conference.
25 years is an extraordinary achievement. It is far greater than one man, but it couldn't have happened without one man. So kudos to Hugh, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it.
And I think now it's a strong, vibrant institution in the field of intellectual property that none of us can imagine won't be there for the next 25 years and beyond.
Yes, I'd like to give a personal message to Hugh Hansen on behalf of the moderators and participants. Something that I don't know if anyone's ever told him before. Hugh, we're actually in this for the tote bags. So make sure that the tote bags maintain the high quality that we've come to expect. Thank you.
Special recognition is due to the Institute Fellows, research assistants, and staff members whose dedication and hard work over the years have played an important role in the continuing success of both the conference and the Institute. We expect the Fordham IP Institute and Conference will continue to serve the expanded interest in and importance of IP law and policy in the US and throughout the world.